Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
So today is, what day is it today?
Sunday. I know that much. The 7th, I believe. Yes, my dad's birthday is tomorrow.
That's right. And my dad's birthday is this week.
That's right.
I know it. We got some
February.
Februarys.
Yes, February. It's Ezra's birthday today. Oh my gosh. I just remembered that. Whew. Yeah,
Write it
February is
down.
fun.
Write it down.
It's written down somewhere in these files. Oh my gosh. Do you feel like you're drowning in lists?
Well, I made an agreement with my therapist like 5 years ago that I was really not allowed to continue to write lists at the level that I was writing lists, Sarah.
I don't know what I
So,
would do without him.
well, it doesn't mean I don't write post-its, but then the post-its all end up on top of each other, and it's kind of like, then I don't look at that. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
It's not helpful. Also, those lists stress me out so badly. Like they feel like they're big lists of things that I haven't gotten to that are emergencies, and they literally are many times emergencies on the post-it note. So I just cover them up and then
Yeah.
they're
Well, I've been like, there's been so many things that I'm trying to tackle so much, and so we both are. But I feel like there's certain times in the day, like I might be like fixing lunch, or I'm in the middle of something that I can't just like sit down or like regroup and just do. And I think of it, and I'm like, oh shoot, I got to write this down, or I'm gonna forget it again.
Mhm.
So I've got this list. No joke, it is 2 pages
Yeah.
and back, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay, okay. But then it's just like, take a moment, like you can get to this when you need to, and however that works for you, just do your best. It all has to be done. It doesn't have to be done in any order, but I will tell you what is helping me is your advice. When you get caught up on something, stop and just do something else that feels good. That has been a game changer for me.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because it's hard to remember to do that, but until you get like in that stop gap again. It's what I find is like, okay, I'm doing a really good job of that for these many days, and then I forget and I get in a log jam and I go into freeze or whatever, like
Mhm.
um then
Well, the old
it's
me would have just been like, throw your hands up, okay, I'm done today, like, and walk out and then go do something else. But that's the reason why I never completed things in the past, is because I
yeah.
get so frustrated that I just leave, and then I come back however long later, and it's like, I don't even know where to start. Whereas this, it's like, okay, put this aside, keep it on the list. Let's see if there's something on the list that we can do right now to check off and be done. And that's what I've been doing, and it feels good.
Well, I feel like that idea, do you feel like that's being okay? So one of the things that I want to talk about with you today is
Yeah.
sort of that idea of what are all of the roles that we have
Hmm.
as women, as so we're caretakers and we're mothers, and you are a wife, and I am an ex-wife, different roles. um, and we are now business creators and owners. And I mean, so the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yes.
And um, there's sort of this, I don't know, what would you, it's sort of like the list, if you will, almost feels like I'm putting on this hat right now. And then I'm going to take off that hat and put on this hat. But I always feel like I have two hats on at the same time, or maybe
For
more
sure.
like seven hats on at the same time. I never like take it all the way off. And I understand like life isn't that disjointed where you can segment things, but it's very hard to get something done. And
Mhm.
like at the same time, there's this big movement. I can't say it's a big movement. That's not true. It's there's a highlighted attention about women our age diagnosing themselves or being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. And um, which is very interesting. I mean, that really hasn't happened in our history before, right? Like that, thinking about it in terms of adults,
Mhm.
specifically women, because it was typically always associated more with male than with female. Just like historic. So it, a lot of that diagnosis does feel like roll list. How do I segment? Where do I go with this? But I feel so. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, absolutely, yes. I'm listening. Mhm.
So I feel like that is all steeped in this idea of like what we're supposed to be, like
Sure.
these internal recordings, if you will. Glennon Doyle calls them memos
Yeah,
or
right, right.
messaging, right?
Yes.
That are like these roles that, so, well, let me dive into what I mean, I've listened to little snippets of this and then listened to it in a couple times through of this podcast where Dax Shepard is interviewing Glennon Doyle,
Mhm.
and Dax's amazing Monica Podman is there as well. I feel like she needs a little more, like, I don't know. She's so deserving of I really care about her for some reason. But also Kristen Bell, who is married to Dax Shepard, was on
Right.
this podcast because she loves Glennon Doyle and has read all of her books. And so she talks about how one of her memos was, a good mother does not hurt her children and puts their needs above her own basically all the time, right? A good mother does this, a good mother does that, a good mother does this. And a good mother is a martyr, right? They kind of give up their entire identity in order to be the most amazing mother and possible. And then Kristen Bell, in a different part of this, is talking about how she knew she had to step up education wise during the pandemic for her two girls. And so she made these amazing schedules that were made with colored pencil and were like color coordinated and beautiful, and everything was just like the workspace was set up and she felt really in control of the workspace, and like it was gorgeous, and the children hated it, and everyone felt and everyone hated it, and everyone was crying because it's just was totally unrealistic, and like I mean it was a, and so she decided to pivot, and the kids woke up one day, or she woke them up or something, and she had them rip up the schedules and said that the lesson of the day was that if you have a plan and it's making everyone miserable, then you pivot.
Good for her. It's excellent.
And I mean, we do that all the time as women. I feel like we're magic at pivoting.
Right, without
Oh,
giving
that
us
needs my attention.
our without giving us the credit, because I think we take it for granted how well we do that.
I don't
And
think
when we
it's,
don't, when we miss it and we
yeah,
skip that beat, then we get mad at ourselves like we can't do it right. And it's
yeah.
so untrue because we do it so well.
Well, don't you think one of the messages that is steeped in both of us, and I have to say, like, I don't think that Shannon, that our third that we speak about, Shannon, I don't think she has quite the same memo or message. And that's the interesting thing. Like all of our memo or messages are different,
Right.
so we collide in some and others not. And I love that about us. But I think there's a level of perfectionism that that cleanliness is godliness, and get your work done before you play, work before you play, and that, but we really know that perfectionism doesn't even exist, like
Right.
perfect doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's a lesson in itself.
I mean, like, how, Sarah, tell us about cars in your family and how a car is to be.
Oh, funny. I love that you asked me this question. I
I'm
have
asking because obviously I know you, like, because you're my sister, but also like we have different parents. So This is one of your memos, I think.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, I mean, okay, so I've managed a few places and I've worked in all different kinds of places, anywhere from condom, condominium. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I'm so glad it was you
Condominium,
that said
like,
something like that in our first time in a podcast and not me.
that's hilarious.
Sorry.
Um, like recreational condominium rentals and to bed and breakfast hospitality. But I've managed some people, but I've also taken away a lot of different lessons. And one that I always share with the people that I'm teaching or instructing or guiding or whatever you might want to call it, training. Um, my dad, from the time we had gotten our cars at 16, or were allowed to drive, I should say, um, every Saturday we would be in the garage collecting all the things to wash our cars because every Saturday it was you wash, and there was very meticulous way, very specialized way to do it. It was top to bottom. You have to start at the top and you work your way to the bottom and then you do the inside out. I mean, it was that's what you do.
Mhm.
And it was 2 hours every Saturday morning. But I mean, my dad taught us that you have to take care of your things and this is the way that you need to do it. So I took that in every role that I've played in my life so far, as a mom,
Mhm.
as a manager, as a coworker, as whatever it might be. But I mean, just silly things like instructing the kids, the last place that I work, that you have to clean top to bottom or it's like you're wasting money and time. Juno with his room. I don't know. Yes, it's ingrained in me. I can't help but think about it when I start cleaning things, or even if it's just the idea of the top to bottom. It doesn't have to be cleaning. I mean, it's just overall, that's a big lesson that we've learned. That was since 16.
Yeah. Well, and I similarly, like in my family, you work before you play, like, and you work, and your worth is in your work.
Yeah.
Like, but it is acceptable as a woman to be a mother as your work because you are responsible for the house.
Yeah.
And you are, like the gender roles were very specific in our grandparent, like coming from our grandparents' generations.
For sure.
And but the message, it's the messaging. I just feel like it's really deep within both of us, like this idea of perfectionism. And I think it's deep.
Listening to that podcast, I didn't get through the whole thing because I was kind of trying to get to the point of the time where I wanted to listen, but I got caught up because I was listening to the rest of it.
Yes, I
And
understand.
oh my God, so funny. But what caught my attention was when she was talking about like going into the room and saying, "Hey guys, room full of boys, are you hungry?" And all of them were like, yeah, hungry." And they just spoke. They might be on like the playing video games or watching a movie or whatever it might be, but it was like they all just spoke for themselves. It was like, "Yes, I'm hungry." Where she walked in the same room and asked a room full of girls, "Are you hungry?" And it was like this weird, silent, underground society where they had their own language and they all just kind of looked at each other and then chose the speaker. Like there were no words, but all of a sudden, between these girls, somehow this one girl was selected. And I think she described her with like freckles and a sweet little red braid or something. But she just turned around and she was like, "No, we're okay. We're not hungry. Thanks." And it was like, whoa, that's super weird because I remember being in rooms like that when we were in middle school. And I remember the looks that we gave each other when we were asked that question. No joke. And it was like, there was always somebody who spoke up for the whole team. for the whole group of girls, but we never talked about it. Didn't matter if you were hungry or not. It was weird. But when she talked about it, I could remember putting myself right back there. And then I also remember my brother and his friends being in the room and how just vocal they were about things.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Well, and that idea of being small, like, oh, I mean that I just think that's so ingrained in us as women. I've like this idea of being small, staying small, like in your physical appearance, that's what's best, right? Like that message is so hardcore.
Well, and I think that's goes back to what you were just talking about. I mean, I feel like we're breaking that a little bit now, and that's where this medication is coming into play because it's we've never broke those barriers before. I mean, you were pretty cookie cutter. I mean, my grandma, oh my gosh, both grandmas. My dad's mom, Grandma Augustin, was a farmer's wife who was in the kitchen making dinner at 5:30 in the morning, preparing dinner, and then once it got closer to breakfast, then she'd make breakfast for 14 guys around a farm table, and then she'd clean up, and then she'd start lunch, and then she'd clean up lunch, and then she'd finish dinner, whatever she had started prepping that morning. And that was her day every single day. And then I think about my grandma Bever, my mom's mom. Holy moly. That woman, now my grandpa liked to sit on a bar stool, and we all know that, especially when he retired. But she would make dinner, make all meals based around him. She never cared what she liked to eat. She just made whatever he liked. She never ever had rice in the house because he didn't like rice. I asked her one time if she liked rice. She said, I don't know. It's just interesting. And she would make dinner and he would come home whenever he wanted to. And whatever time that would have been, she'd get up and she'd reheat and make dinner and have it warm for him. What? That doesn't happen here.
Well, and I mean, like in my grandmother's, my Nana, my dad's mom, she was a mother to 8 children, and she had like 5 under 6, something crazy like that with the first 5 children. I mean, it was very much like an Irish Catholic small ball team of
Yeah.
children. And my dad had these huge jobs, this huge job with Quaker Oats, and they moved all around the country. And like, it was nuts, like this was just, to me, like from and he was so smart. My grandfather was so smart. I mean, just such an inventor's spirit. But I can just imagine like how the division of labor, emotional labor, like my Nana did all of those things. That was it. I can't imagine making that many meals. I can't imagine wiping that many butts. I cannot imagine that. And then I don't know, but like, I don't know, but, and like, you don't decide where you get to move. It's not
Right.
like there's free choice in any of that. And I'm not saying that's negative. That's how that relationship appears to me many moons later, right? Like I don't really know the inner workings of the relationship, but that the role assignments, if you will. And on my mom's side, like, which I think truly drove my insta goal from the time I was little, that I needed to be a stay-at-home mother of 4 children. Like that was what I was going to do. Like that was the plan, like
Yeah.
an amazing homemaker. Like that was, yet I had this whole other identity as a little girl, that who wanted to be the president of the United States and a pastor and a principal and all the P's. And then, it's so mind-boggling. But my grandma Charlotte, and I mean, we know, like she was my most special grandparent by far, like my most connected that I ever, but she had this inner, I feel as though she had kind of an inner disappointment of me because she viewed me as being talented and not using my talents. And I don't think she ever viewed herself as being talented, but I think she was mega talented, like I've told, this from the farm activities, but for my grandma, Like, this is how her retirement went, like phase one, my grandfather decided he was buying a team of horses, Belgian draft horses, on the way home without talking to her. I don't think he told her
Gotta
beforehand
have
about it,
that.
like, and then they had to change all their retirement plans to move to the island full time instead of be back and forth between the island and Chicago. So, and this is when she's in her 60s, and these decisions are, honestly, they were made for her, like, and she wanted to travel. And I'm not trying to say anything negative about my grandfather, but that was how he really was the decision maker in so many ways. Yet she was the worker behind the decisions as well, like when this to be true, but when my grandfather would see somebody on the island in the summer that he hadn't seen, or some sort of a cousin of even a friend of a cousin that he hadn't seen in 20 years, he would invite families to come over to the farm for dinner.
Mhm.
And like, but there was also just as strong a belief that when you eat on the farm, you eat from the farm. So you couldn't go to Man's and buy a fast roast and then throw said roast into the oven. You had to thaw the roast, that was in the deep freezer. You had to thaw the roast. But the dinner party was happening in 6 hours, and we were up to 15 people. And oh wait, I saw this other, like, and as the women of the farm, which I was considered in that camp. Not all of my cousins are considered in that camp, but I was to have a woman role in my family. Then um, it was my job to figure this out with my grandma. And she was amazing at handling that. And I think I would have left. I would have been like, I'm order a pizza, like on time for 7. But here she's in her 80s and it's time number 90,000, like, and I mean, she just would shake her head and but she did it. And I don't know. I mean, I think that those roles really were strong. The the rules we learned were strong.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
And they put a whole lot of should have. You should be doing this guilt. There's a guilt component then of like not fulfilling that role the way that we saw it, and like almost ditching the ideas of it to see like what parts of it fit us now. Like, we still really like a clean home, you and I. Like,
Oh man, yes.
and we still really don't feel like the greatest mother when our homes are not clean,
It's true. It's totally true.
or when we haven't made a perfectly clean meal, or when you have to use a box of macaroni and cheese. Like, these are messages that our mothers really did not tell us that was bad, because our mothers were like, at some point our mothers were going, get the box of macaroni and cheese and start to make it on the stove. You know what I mean? Like, just they understood like there were times where you just had to choose convenience.
Well, yeah, yes. I think convenience was that next generation. I mean, because now I feel like when you cook wholesome foods, now I feel judged like, well, why are you doing it that way? Why wouldn't you just go get a box of whatever? Or, yeah, that's interesting. Side note.
But I feel like those roles to us now in 2021, and for a long time for us, in reality, they felt they didn't fit us.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fit us. We're artists. Like, we might have perfectionistic parts of our, but like, we are not within the societal confines of what we're supposed to be in
Mm-hmm.
reality. So, I think, in going back to the podcast, and I've heard Doyle say this a few different times, she often talks about this Walt Whitman quote. And to me, this feels it just feels right. If we want to live examined lives, conscious, intentional lives, we have to re-examine every single thing we've been taught in the world, in a book, in a classroom, in religion, and dismiss everything that insults our own soul.
Well, That's some heavy duty work.
But we're already doing it.
Yes. Oh, we are. And we'll do it forever.
So when we talked last time, we talked about like how we've taken all these steps towards businesses and towards, and we have done probably just as many steps since we talked on the last podcast.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
However, for me, I had to switch gears and put on my success center, this school that I'm working on, and this huge project of the sensory. I had to like switch gears because I have deadlines, and so I couldn't have my company be the number one. And I've
Oh,
been
and doesn't it feel so guilty? Don't you feel so guilty? Oh my gosh.
right. And why should I feel guilty about
Right.
that when this is part of what I'm doing too? That's just as fulfilling.
And feels just as good. Yes. Yes. I hear
So
you.
it's so ironic that you started the conversation by saying that it's helped you to switch from thing to thing. That feels good. I
Hmm.
think I've been experiencing the last 2 weeks this feeling of guilt about wanting to switch to this and needing to paint and needing to get this out. And like, it's the first time I felt like my wackiness was really ingrained and like I was my full self. And why then I didn't, I've had a really hard time celebrating it. And I don't know. So
Let's break this down into layers though, because when I had said it's really nice to be able to jump from one thing to another, this list is for Sostra Self only. So my business. So, I'm trying to figure out what I need to register with. I'm trying to get that seller's permit together. I need to meet my labeling requirements. I have to figure out if I need to be licensed at a federal and state level. I need to, like, there's all these things, right? And then I've got to figure out how I want to do shipping. And then I'm trying to look up all the products and what I need to do for bulk and, what I want to do with that side. Anyway, so in Source Yourself, if I get not bored, but stressed or frustrated, I'll try and bounce out of that into stay in Source Yourself, but find something else that I can check off the list. But I had the other day, I had to check myself because I almost became, no, I'm not even gonna say almost. I say almost because I don't want to sound like a bad mom, but I'm just gonna say it. I felt guilty because I didn't want to be a mom at that moment. I wanted to work on my business because all the energy was flowing and I wanted to continue to be creative in that space, but I had to be a mom and I
thank you
didn't
for
want to.
saying that. Thank you for saying that. I feel the same way. And you know why? Because I feel small then.
Mhm.
I feel small. I feel stuck in the box and I don't want to be in the box. And I don't want to spend every waking moment with my son.
Yeah. Yes.
And I don't think I'm supposed to.
We can't.
It's not
We
healthy.
both no, it's not. We all need to change it up and be with other people
We
and
need to pivot.
grow.
We need to
Mhm.
pivot.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need to pivot.
And that's why this morning, like this weekend has been so crazy because I don't know if I told you, but we ended up getting a room over at the yacht club on Friday night.
Oh, good.
Yeah, me and Juna and then Emily and Harper and just took the kids swimming because it was so cold. And it was really nice. It was a good change. And then we got home and yesterday morning and we were forting and you know doing the forts and the kids were playing. I took Harper so Emily could work at home because she took the kids I think last weekend or whatever. Anyway, I was forting yesterday when you had called. The kids were upstairs and I was surprised building a
I
fort
keep
for them.
hearing farting when you say farting.
Forting,
We're
yeah.
boy moms, and I just keep hearing farting. So
Forting, yeah. Juna thinks that word is really funny.
it is.
So that's why I always use it, forting. Um, yes, but when you called at that moment in time, I was like, I just want to drop everything and I want to go make a cup of coffee or a tea or whatever I'm drinking and just sit and listen and soak it all up. And I want to give you all of me, but yet I've got 5 sticks under one hand and I've got 3 connectors in the other hand. The phone is lodged in my shoulder. I'm laying on the ground looking up, trying to figure out how I can get this blanket to stay up. And the kids are calling downstairs. Is it ready yet? Like, no, give me 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes.
But that example, Sarah, is like, that is part of the magic that our mothers showed us.
Yes.
They did pause and make forts. They did pause and make art projects. They were untamed, untethered, free in some of those moments of our childhood. And so we knew it existed.
Yes.
I don't know if my mom ever saw that with her mom. I'm sure she did in various ways, and she would have to talk to that. I could not.
Yeah.
But when I saw my grandma kind of do something, I don't know, like when she said, forget about it, it was like, let's go shopping.
Yeah.
Like that was her way. Let's go shopping. Let's go do something fun, or let's go to a musical, or let's go for a trip. She would just be like, get me out of here. That was the feeling of like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. I would have to say I feel like my mom never wanted me in a box.
I don't think my
My
mom wanted me in a box either, Sarah.
my grandma, I don't think my mom's mom never necessarily wanted me in that box either. I think she could see through all of that and wanted more for herself at a certain point in time. My grandma Augustin, uh, she left me too soon, I think, to really know the answer to that question. But I think that she would have wanted me to be the homemaker,
Yeah.
um, the at home. But
But
my
Aunt Kate
mom,
didn't.
Aunt Kate, no, Aunt Kate never was able to have children, so she didn't have that
But she
home,
could,
but she did have my dad.
but she could see that you had layers, I think.
Oh, for
I
sure. Yes.
understood that
Aunt
about
Kate she was something, I mean, special. She and Uncle Eddie both, and I think that they found the kids and my mom and my dad, they would travel together and do the auctions and stuff. But Aunt Kate was she was a different kind of person than my grandma Augustin, her
yeah.
sister. Um, totally different, two totally different people. But
I think,
also very much the same.
my grandma, in reality, I think my grandma knew that about me too, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think I think my Nana, I feel like she left me too soon for us to have like grown in that way as grown-ups. And, she left so soon and so suddenly. But for my grandma Charlotte, I think her real ultimate message was, you are supposed to, you're bigger than this box that you keep putting
Mhm.
yourself in. Um, and I don't think she ever meant that in a shaming way. I think that's how I felt about myself. Like I think my
Right.
grandma meant it in a really loving way. And like I think she could see that my star was supposed to shine brighter and that I wasn't supposed to be small. And that's really what she was communicating, but she didn't have those words. And I didn't have the ears to hear her at that time either. I wasn't ready for the message.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I keep thinking about my mom because she's, a lot of my dad was always, work hard and then play. And my mom was always just like, well, why can't we just do it all at the same time? You know, it was a lot of
Yeah.
um, princess parties and who cares? Let's just go to the beach and camp out all day long. Whereas my dad was like, yeah, but what are we going to do for like lunch? And we've got to like take breaks and the kids are going to get tired. And she's like, who cares? We'll figure it out. We'll just pack a cooler and we'll be there all day long. And I see so much of that in Matt and I, because Matt will be like, he's so like,
Pragmatic.
yes. It's like, what do you mean we're going to stay at the beach all day? We can't do that. Well, why not? Like, well, because the sun and Juna and he's going to burn. And it's like, well, not if we take sunscreen and take a umbrella. No, he doesn't have to be in the water the whole time. Like we can take breaks, but we can be at the beach. It's funny, the mentality. It's
But
funny.
that's him having his roles and
For
his
sure.
messages, you know?
Absolutely. Because
So
Thursday night we got that heavy snow.
yeah.
That super,
Oh,
super
I
beautiful
felt
heavy
it.
snow.
I got
Yeah.
it. My whole body feels it still today, Sarah.
Well, Thursday night, Juno looks at me at 5 p.m. and he says, "Mama, we need to go outside and build a snowman." I'm like, "Juno, we gotta get dinner together." I said, "It's gonna be like this evening is gonna fly by and Papa should be home soon." And he was like, "Yeah, but we didn't even get to go out and play in it today." And I looked at him and I just dropped everything. I was like, "Yep, let's go. Let's go do that." So he just looked at me with big stars in his eyes and he was just like, "Okay." So we got all of our snow gear out and he said, "Mama, can we build a snowman by lantern?" I said,
Build a
"Even better."
snowman.
So he went in the garage and he got his little lantern and we went outside and we built a snowman by lantern. And Matt came home and we snowballed the car. Like we just totally had to got all the snowballs out and threw them at the car. And Matt got out and he was laughing at us. And he went straight inside and got all of his stuff on and came out and didn't ask any questions. Not, like, are we doing something for dinner or should we figure out a plan? Nothing. It was so nice and so refreshing that he didn't have or need to have a
Yeah.
plan at that exact moment in time because we were just playing by lantern
As he
outside
took
in the
off
dark.
one role, he was
Mhm.
able in that moment to shift and not worry about that.
Yeah,
The
it was
same
so nice.
thing. Yeah. Well, I feel like okay, this is how I'd like to close our because we're getting towards the end of our time, and so I would like you to tell me one of your successes over the last 2 weeks since we podcasted last. What's one of your successes over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, like physical or mental? What are we talking about here? Just anything?
I don't think I get to define your successes.
Okay. I feel like I've had a lot. I'm just gonna say that. I I am continuing to stay in the headspace that I matter, that this matters, that what I'm doing is a beautiful thing. Um, in the beginning of January, I think it was coming to that aha moment with I'm not good enough, or this business isn't was never good enough, or it can't be better than whatever everything else that's out there. So I've gotten past that, but the last couple weeks, I would say staying in that headspace of uh, it does matter, and it is a beautiful thing, and I can make a difference. If I'm going to be, like check off list kind of thing, I feel like I've got two of my labels complete, and I just have to hit send to Shannon to get those printed, which is great. So I've got lots of things, lots and lots of things. But I think that this coming week, I'm definitely working on all of the background stuff. So I want the seller's permit to be done and all of that stuff just to be done. And I think I've got all of it in line. I just have to find time, put that other
Awesome.
hat on. So what about you?
Well, this on Wednesday or on Tuesday, I subbed for Haley at the Success Center, and the Success Center is it's it's this beautiful place, right? So it's like a Marquette Peaceworks and Milwaukee Public Schools are working together to try and make a different style of alternative schooling. So we're really finding that alternative schools have not been successful. And by alternative schools, you're really talking about kids that are in crisis, kids that aren't showing up, kids that are having some really serious behavioral issues where it's impeding the learning of other students. And so this is not an easy group of, these kids have walked through a lot in their lives. And a lot of them are coming to us they're really truly in crisis and have had a really specific and intensive trauma. So it's been very difficult to do that virtually, but part of my job there has been to build or start to build this sensory pathway slash self-regulation hallway. This is so hard to explain. So, but I completed this really huge painting that's kind of the centerpiece of the thought process for the hallway. And I've never presented a painting before in my life. I didn't go to fine art school of any kind to like learn how you're supposed to talk about a painting. And on Tuesday, when I was subbing, one of the like the leaders, one of my bosses, is on the screen saying, "I want you to tell me what's happening behind you." And he was asking me how I had gotten engagement from a few of the kids that we've been really struggling with, but I've made a connection with them. And I said, "Well, this crazy thing happened, like we started to use this painting today, and it was just an incredible experience. Like everyone was talking, and it was beautiful. And we talked about, and I talked about the actual lesson of the painting and why. And so I was sharing this with Willie, and he's like, "Can you share this tomorrow at the all staff meeting?" And I'm like, "I'll do whatever you want me to do, Willie." And then I had to switch rooms right before the meeting because because Arlo, my son, was, having a meltdown and with our sitter. So there's a lot happening before this meeting, and I have like 20 minutes to prepare. And then the cameras. So like most of the time the camera was on the painting, and this is my head. Like this, talking about the painting, mortified. I'm literally sweating through my clothing. I'm telling them, like, I'm sharing this, and all these, like, there were wet eyes, and I was so vulnerable, and my voice was shaking. And then I mean, like, it was not pretty, but they really responded. And I said, when I was painting this, I was just thinking about our kids, and this song that my dad wrote forever ago kept going through my mind, and I intended to sing it to them, the chorus, but I couldn't get it out of my mouth. I just was like, so the line is like, that's in my mind, that's how I'm talking. I really have no perception of good self in this way, right? Like, so I was like, I worked so hard putting the past, it's just you. I worked so hard putting the past to pasture, doing my best to erase what I recall, but trying very hard not to think about something is the same as thinking about it after all. Wrong key, but
Love.
but that line of like, you can't erase your past. You
Mm-hmm.
got to love yourself. And so there was a profound impact from that conversation. I died a small death during that. And afterwards, I puked. I had to go leave the meeting after that to puke. Arlo's like, "Are you throwing up?" And I'm like, "Yes." But it was a success. And
That's amazing.
the next time I taught, Willie's like, "Would you sing the line to me?" I was a musician for forever, and would you please just sing the line to me? So I did. And he's like, "Okay, now I want you to record that line and send it to Drew, because he didn't get to hear it. And this line should be the anthem of the Success Center. Like, you just nailed it. And I have no idea how you birthed that. Like, the fact that you would even give that gift is so." And
Oh.
I was like, "Well, thank you for seeing me, but I'm totally uncomfortable."
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So it was a big success, but I feel like it's because you and we've been cleaning house. Like, you're doing it in the form of a list. And I feel like I'm trying to release pockets of my shame that I should have never really even felt such deep shame about, because, you know, as just being who I was in those moments. And those are our past, right? Like, those are the big boulders of our past.
Right.
And I feel like we're freeing ourselves, and we're no longer so small, Sarah. And I feel like we're going to make millions of dollars if we and be like actually monetarily successful
Mm.
if we can untether this and just do, for lack of a better term, God's work, like, and be the light and share the gifts
Uh,
that were given to us, and then hone in on those gifts and relearn them and reimagine them and reinvent them, and and feel untethered so we can move from thing to thing, and
I agree.
not in a
I
way.
I agree. I said it the first time we recorded. I'm gonna say it again. I feel like we've been doing this our whole life together. We've just never hit record, and we finally are doing it. And it's gonna be choppy in the beginning. We're learning. We are learning so much every single day. So to do every 2 weeks on this, like the amount of stuff combined between the two of us is ridiculous. It's incredible. Um, but I agree with you. I agree with you. I feel like we've got so much to share,
We
and I
do.
hope everyone sees it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I got.
Same. What hat do you get to put on next?
Well, I really do need to clean the house pretty badly. I need to pay bills for the week and write the schedule for the week and do my billing for the week, and then I get to go drop off a car that I'm really afraid to know what the mechanic is going to say about the car, but
Oh,
you know, it's time to be a grown up about it and see what the deal is.
yeah.
And I need to take care of my car even like 1/16 the way that your dad did, and I'd be in much better shape.
Top to bottom.
Oh, yeah, it's ugly. That's just no other way to say it. But I'll forgive myself for that right now.
Yes, do so.
What about you? What are you going to do now?
Um, I've got a little time, so I'm going to finish up a couple things that so I can get emails out Monday morning, tomorrow morning. Um, so that can be off my list, and I can concentrate on some other things. But then I do also have to do like the grocery shopping and do that, and then go pick up Juna and be mama.
Well, I take care of you for me.
Take care of you for me.
I love you and I'm really proud of you.
Thanks. Back at you, sister.
Okay, I'll talk
You're
to
amazing.
you. You are too. And I cannot wait for the eye cream. I cannot wait.
Oh, yes.
So excited. And I can't wait I'm going to send you pictures of my foot, and then you can put them on your website.
Oh, yes, please do. I
Arlo's
love
going
it.
to take it because he took the first one. That's what he told me. All right. I love you.
I
Bye.
love you too. Bye.